been a couple of days since I last did a live stream on the old pyramid. So here we go. I'm just gonna see if I can find this and see if I can find find myself on YouTube and just share it. Alright. Here we go. Alright. Holding fast. Oh, crikey. Here we go. Weird. Alright. Okay, let's share that to Facebook. Let you guys know what's going on. Okay. Before we get going, let's just do that. Alright, come on. Ugh. Okay. So. Oh, someone watching. Hello, hello, hello. Is it Johnny? I don't know, I can't tell at the moment. Alright. Let's go. Could actually be me, just watching myself. Which would be weird. There you go. Alright. Okay, let's get going. Alright. So, let's go. Let's go to our pyramid and see where we're at today. So, it has been a week of it. Yeah, I've been doing some work on the pyramid. Mainly the groundwork again. Just the work to prepare the sort of mass excavation around the pyramid so we can get to that zero height. Here we go. Okay, where are we going? Down here, I think. Alright. So we've got a couple of... I'm not sure I've done any of the block work on the upper portion of the pyramid since... Come on, load in, you silly thing. Since I last streamed, but here we go. So this is where I'm spending most of my time at the moment. Just kind of pulling this freaking land away. So I've made some inroads here. It's very time consuming. I still haven't figured out how to exceed that max block limit. So I'm having to kind of scoop it all out in sort of chunks, as bigger chunks as I can manage. But we've got this sort of... What I wanted to establish on this was just where the extreme corner of it was going to be. So I built as you can see, I've kind of gone down in the 4 2x2 blocks on the corners just to establish that angle there. And so that's where we're hitting it. I need to just change this bedrock here to... I think I've still got the coordinates for that. So let's just drop into there. Hit that up. I think this is still it, so we need to change that to sandstone just so we can get our floor sorted while we do other things. And we gotta just change that to 0 elevation, so we only get the 1 level. Should do it, hopefully. Yeah, okay, there we are. This lava is a pain in the ass. It's always a pain because it always comes from these sort of kind of fissures, and you know, you can't, it's unlike water, which is really easy to stop. You know, water, you just stem the flow and it's over, and you don't really have to worry about the source of it. I mean, you can do, but Minecraft's so weird in that you kind of, you know, you can, this water doesn't sort of really appear to be coming from anywhere. You know, it's but where it's coming from is that block. You know, that little space there is where it's coming from. So there you go, and here. Whoop. So you really only have to kind of, you know, find those source and cap it off, and it goes, and then it'll drop all the way down there, and when it gets to the bottom, it'll piss off. Lava is more problematic because it is essentially the same, but it flows differently, and it tends to, you know, it tends to be more difficult to stem. I don't even really know why I'm bothering, because ultimately it's all going to go, but I just don't like the way it looks. It's sort of mucking up my work site. You know, it's kind of looking a bit scrappy. There's bloody snow that's fallen down from some of the floating trees that I've now got rid of. Honestly, it's hard work, this. It's like bloody cleaning your bloody house or something. Anyway. So here we are. Right. Okay, so yeah, we had an interesting it's been an interesting week this week. We had some music stuff happening this week, which was cool. We had a little get together with the signatures over at the studio, just the kind of, well, it wasn't the full band, it was just the kind of core rhythm section and vocals. But we did have a little get together and have got a little something exciting in the bag to share with everyone in a few days. We also got the chance to have a little listen to some of the 4 or 5 of the adjusted mixes for the album, which are sounding really bloody good. And yeah, it's very exciting. It's it's interesting to have a project like this going on, and it's just a shame that we've been sort of, you know, it's been really kind of affected by the whole lockdown thing, and obviously with us being not gigging out there gigging, that's affected us a lot. It's affected me a lot. I was you know, certainly, I think it's just anyone who is a, you know, full-time working musician, or in the music or an entertainment sort of industry in whatever way you are, you know, this whole thing has kind of, you know, potentially seen your business just literally grind to a halt, and we're seeing a lot of evidence that the various kind of easing up and opening up of things recently has been something of a mixed bag in terms of how that's working out. And you know, we've got other countries around Europe there sort of experiencing, you know, sort of corona slaps in the face, and having to kind of take steps to lock down again and stuff. So it's all, yeah, it's all kind of crazy. So what we're going to do, I think, today, sorry to get down on you. So anyway, we're going to clear this bit because I want to kind of bring this line through here and try and clear it. Ah, it's a pain. Well, there it is. So what we're going to do is choose this line here and build. We might as well deal with the trees as well at the same time. Why not? It's okay. Alright. We'll start at tree height then, and then we'll get our coordinates in. So we click to the chat. No, we don't want to click up. What am I doing? I'm going to click into it. There we are. /fill. And then we see our little coordinate come up on the screen there. So we'll type that in. 5372. Whoop. Now I always put an extra height one in from the one that it says, because for some reason it quite often seems to be one out, or at least from what you're expecting. So I just add an extra, whatever it tells me it is. I add an extra level. It's interesting, isn't it? Alright. Yes, okay. Syntax error. Yes, okay. So let's just blitz on. Let's just blitz on right to the end, right here. And I don't know. Just see what happens if we do it here. It'd probably be too many. Okay, so click into it. Let's find our tilde. Every time I talk about tilde, I always think of my niece, Matilda. It's interesting, isn't it? Okay. Matilda is an amazing singer. We used to have a little folky band when she lived up this way. It's pretty lovely for a little while there, and then obviously life just gets in the way. Oh, it did work. Excellent. Here we are. So that's cleared that. Left a kind of random bit of leafage up at the top there. Good. So that's kind of established our, what we're looking at. And I don't know how many bites I'm going to have to take at this to get rid of it all, but let's experiment. Yeah. So Tilly is yeah, she's a great singer, and she was doing I'm not sure whether she's still doing it now. I don't think she is, but up until recently she was doing a lot of vocal work for a YouTube channel that does these sweet little animations, and she was doing the sort of nursery rhymes and stuff like that. She was doing the vocals for them, and I kind of understood why they must have liked her voice. It was very, she has a really good voice for that, or at least she was able to sort of change her voice a little bit to suit what they were asking for, which I suppose is something that good singers can do, right? Okay, let's try this. Yes. So we've got water leakage, of course. Alright, so that was only 5,000 blocks. Okay, let's get the bigger chunk going. So we're at level 59. So let's try 2, 3, let's try 5 levels and see if it'll do it. Did I say 59? Yep. Okay, good. Right. So we're on our way. We might try a bigger chunk. Okay, so we're at level 54. Let's try 10 levels. Yep, that was 16,000. So we can afford to probably do quite a bit more. Alright, so we're at 44. Let's go down to level 30. There we are. Okay, this is part of how this stuff tends to work here. It's a bit of experimentation. I'm not always sure how the Minecraft sort of algorithm for this stuff, or how the brains of it is working in terms of working out how many blocks you're dealing with, because it's sometimes I get some very odd results, unexpected results. You know, if something or some operation will work and then it won't work. You know, and so let's try again. We're at level 30. Let's try that. Actually, sod it. Let's go right down to 10. See what happens. Alright, maybe put 30 in here. Too many. Not by much, but too many. Okay, well, let's just put an extra one in here. Try it again. Yeah, there we are. I'm in leakage. Alright. Oh, come on. Right. We're looking back at me. I was listening to a bit of Dixie's Midnight Runners today, and my wife is very much a fan of the Come On Eileen. And I know Come On Eileen has sort of become something of one of those kind of songs that's been so oversaturated, and you know that some people kind of can't dig it anymore. But it is a great song. But it's not my favourite. Gino is my favourite, and it's funny, you know, growing up, I had no idea who Gino Washington was, and I was like, you know, I was always kind of like, who is this Gino guy that they're talking about, or you know, hollering about, and this song is, you know, called Gino and everything, and so it was kind of cool when, you know, as a result of working with the SIGs, you know, obviously our paths crossed several times. You know, we haven't actually played with him, weirdly. We've been on the same bill with Gino, and we've, yeah, obviously, you know, I remember having a sort of brief chat with him backstage at one of the things that we were doing or whatever, and but it was kind of cool to, you know, meet the guy that song was about, you know, because it was kind of one of the first of those types of events that happens with the signatures from time to time. Well, it happens a lot actually now, but yeah, it was very cool, and of course I told the kids about it. In fact, when we listened to the song today, I was telling them in the car, you know, that Daddy's met the guy that the song's about, Gino Washington. And they were, they just weren't the least bit impressed. Of course they weren't. I don't know, if it if it isn't, Marshmello and or whoever they're into at the moment. Well, that's Hector who likes Marshmello, but he's kind of got out of the Marshmello a bit, and he's discovered his new metal, and he's listening to a bit of Linkin Park at the moment. Ah, dear. I'm not keen. But, there's a lot of love for Linkin Park, though, on the Facebook post that I put up a few days ago, which was, sort of slightly bemoaning the whole Linkin Park thing. But, a lot of people going, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with Linkin Park. And I was like, oh, well, that's not really my thing. I don't really like it. I never really was into, that whole new metal scene that came on in the noughties, I suppose 90s and late 90s, early noughties. But it wasn't my thing. And I thought it was kind of done in terms of, because at the time, in the early noughties, I had a student, guitar student, who was into his Linkin Park and his Papa Roach and his what else did he like? This is William, young chap called William, who wanted to learn a few things on the guitar, and I gave him a few lessons. What else did he like? Can't remember now. Anyway, but it was always kind of, that sort of stuff, briefly. Not sure what he's into now, but yeah. But I don't think I've even listened to Linkin Park since those days when I was listening to it when it was kind of current, and then perhaps listening to some of it for the sake of being able to show William how stuff was done, stuff that he wanted to learn for his lesson. But there we are. But Hector's discovered it now, and he likes it. Although he's only listening to 2 songs. He's only listening to bloody Numb and whatever the other one was called. I can't remember the bloody name of the thing now. You can tell I'm a big fan. I put some Zepp on in the car today. I thought, you know what? I never make them listen to Zeppelin or anything. And I'm not the biggest Zeppelin fan anyway. But I thought, I want to put something else on, because, I want to put something that they're not listening to generally when they are in the car with mum, with their mum. And that's not to say that my wife's taste in music isn't quite eclectic, because it is. It is. She likes a lot of different stuff, and she's got quite a cool playlist on her Spotify account, which I think was originally made for her 40th birthday a little while ago, that we put together and she put together. There's that playlist, and I think I did a sort of 90s playlist that I think she's got downloaded as well. So the kids listen to a lot of that sort of stuff. I don't know why I'm filling in this. I shouldn't bother really. But you see how I've kind of stemmed it here, but it's under here as well. So it always takes a little bit longer to deal with the lava. There you go. That one's. No, it's not. Yeah, so I thought to myself today, you know what, they've watched School of Rock and they really liked it, and that kind of features several Zepp songs in one way or another. And so I thought to myself, all right, let's put some Zepp on then. And Joe was like, well, what track shall I put on? And the first thing that came to mind was Dazed and Confused. And that didn't go down too well. Yeah, no one really liked that, and in fact Joe didn't even like it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's sort of a bit of a classic, you know, Zepp number, but you know, I don't know, sometimes these things are just, maybe they're just too long in the tooth, they're just too, you know, far removed from what people are tuned into, you know. I kind of quite often fail to appreciate that sort of thing. You know, my taste in music is sort of, you know, it's not really bound by time in that sense. That sounds so bloody. My taste in music is unbound by time. You know, sounds like that. Or it sounds like I should say it like that. But I don't mean it in a kind of in any kind of sort of pretentious or, you know, any way that's kind of a bit lofty. What I mean is that, you know, when I hear something like Dazed and Confused, or the next one that I had played, and which to be fair I think they liked a little bit more, which was Good Times Bad Times. It's a bit more upbeat and, you know, whatnot. But yeah, you know, I just, I don't know. I just hear music. I don't really kind of feel, oh, this is too old, or it's, you know, it's too far removed from what I'm listening to. You know, Joe's a big Snow Patrol fan. Well, so am I actually. We both really like Snow Patrol. We've seen them 2 or 3 times live, and I kind of, I was a bit late to the whole Snow Patrol party. Really, I only really discovered them when they when I started having to cover their sort of mid-noughties, late noughties album output that were really successful. Things with sort of Chasing Cars and You're All I Have and things like that. And I started sort of taking notice of them then, because I had to at my day job, at my work at the time. And yeah, that's pretty big. Let's fill some of this stuff in. It looked nice. So I'm just going to zone out doing some of this plot work. Yeah, so I remember, yeah, I mean, I knew Snow Patrol, about Snow Patrol, but I'd never really got into them or anything, and didn't rate them or anything. Same with bands like Keane and, you know, whoever else of that ilk. And you know, it seems weird now, but the mid to late noughties were quite a rosy time for rock bands, you know, guitar type bands, or, you know, there was quite a bit of you know, that kind of thing sort of making a bit of a comeback. You know, you had bands like the Kooks and the Automatic and you know, obviously people who'd been around a while, like the Killers, and, you know, I know that the man is disgraced, but, you know, Lost Prophets at that time as well. And Kaiser Chiefs, Franz Ferdinand, all these kind of bands were sort of there was a little bit of a rosy patch there for a while, where they're all making really killer records, and that just so happened that at that sort of moment was when, because they were coming onto my radar at work, I was listening to them, and I had a sort of certain rule at the time where if a band or artist kind of released, say 3 singles from an album, and I liked them all, I'd go and buy the album. And this was kind of before, this is pre-Spotify. So I'd go and buy, I'd buy a hard copy. I still like buying hard copies. I'll never get out of that. It's, whether it's CD or vinyl. I kind of made the move to CD in the 80s, like everyone else, or like most people did, and I've never really switched back to vinyl because even though I know that a lot of people have, and that you could do that now. Strangely enough, because again, vinyl has had this something of a renaissance. It's weird, really, because in the face of the whole sort of resurgence of interest in vinyl, has come at the time when the music business or the whole thing is in such a diabolical state, even disregarding the further effects on it that coronavirus is having. I think that there's a sort of perfect storm, really, of a perfect storm of technologies and inventions, or technologies and kind of the way the sort of what am I trying to say? I suppose what I mean is, if anyone's ever watched or read James Burke's Connections series, or his book The Day the Universe Changed, one of the things that that James Burke likes to do is to kind of, he loves this sort of cause and effect, and these kind of pulling these seemingly unrelated things together and showing you how that that they're actually completely linked, and certain things are entirely, certain sort of huge historical events or changes or things that happen are entirely dependent on, sometimes on a vast amount of other things also happening. I remember in The Day the Universe Changed, I remember one of the things that he focused on was the printing press. And you sort of, when you think about the printing press, you may well study it at school or whatever, the invention of the printing press. But in the way that Burke, goes into detail about the ramifications of that invention, how that changed so many things, and this is where his sort of consummate skill at doing that stuff is just amazing. But Connections, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, no, I've totally lost my connection to what I was trying to say there. I just went off on a bit of a James Burke thing. I'm a big fan, always have been. I showed the kids that piece to camera that he did with the rocket launch, the Voyager 2 or whatever it was in Florida, and And I mean, I think that's probably one of the best bits of live television ever filmed. You know, this just you know, God, can you imagine if anything had gone wrong? You know, or if he'd mucked up his cue, or just said, you know, had a little tongue tie, you know, little something going on, and it's just, if for those of you who haven't seen it, I absolutely recommend YouTubing James Burke, and that's Burke, and rocket launch or something like that, and because what it is the most spectacular live piece to camera you'll ever see in terms of getting it absolutely perfectly timed, especially in the 70s when, you know, the technology available to them to kind of be able to, you know, to do it was non-existent. You know, it couldn't have been particularly technically sort of you know, clever or advanced what they're doing. They just did their sums correctly, and James Burke, you know, did his piece to camera at exactly the right speed and from exactly the right position in order to basically the kind of the climax, you know, the kind of thing that you're watching for is him being able to get to the end of his sentence, and he's talking about rocket fuel and you know, and what happens when you ignite you know, liquid nitrogen or whatever, and he sort of goes, you know, and when you do this thing, you know, you get this, and he turns to the, you know, what you haven't noticed, which is behind him because it's kind of blurred out, and he turns and points, and the camera sort of zooms in, I think, and, you know, our focuses in, and it's a rocket launch at Cape Kennedy or whatever, and it you know, the rocket fires and launches right on cue. And of course, you know, if you were able to you know, have everyone at flipping you know, Houston and Cape Kennedy or whatever on hold, and they're waiting for you to do your piece to camera before they hit the launch button, as if there was anything like that, you know, but then that would be something. But this is obviously this is something where they've obviously had to plan it sort of in reverse. You know, they know what time the thing's gonna launch, and they have to prepare their piece so that it fits with that, and then time it and get in position. And oh man, when you think of the logistics of that, it just blows your mind that it went off perfectly, absolutely perfectly. Anyway, highly recommend. I highly recommend that, and I highly recommend pretty much everything James Burke's ever done. Very interesting fellow. And oh crikey. Yeah, Blockwork Central. That's how is this looking right now? That's not bad. That's not bad. I might just keep going on it for the moment. No one's on at the moment. I'm not sure whether at the start there we had someone watching, or whether it was just me dicking around with the phone, getting YouTube up on my phone. There were two people on, so they couldn't have both been me, I don't think. But anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. It is what it is, everyone. My son is really enjoying, Hector, he's really enjoying live streaming as well. It's sort of, you know, he does it, he just wants to kind of do it all the time, though. You know, but it was his birthday yesterday, and he got to play Destiny for the first time. Sort of. He actually did a live stream called First Time Playing Destiny, sort of. I actually have let him play in the non-combat zones in Destiny, so in the tower and the reef and places like that, and I've let him run around and kind of talk to the vendors, and since I first got the game. Now obviously the game is basically it's 5 years old now, because it came out pretty much the same time as my son Otto was born. So so Hector has sort of basically waited 5 years to be able to play it. So he's having a proper go now. I've set him up a thing so that he can play it properly and do it. Yeah, so we did a live stream earlier. This is his first sort of go at playing Destiny. I was of the opinion that as first person shooters go, it's fairly tame. There's a few scenarios that might be scary, or a little bit intense perhaps, if you're kind of getting into the story and stuff. But it's a bloodless shoot 'em up. There's no gore or there's no damage, there's no blood splats or anything like that, and it's not Duke Nukem or let's go back a bit, or Grand Theft Auto or anything like that. It's not Thrill Kill. God, remember that one? Anyone remember Thrill Kill? The PS1 combat game, fighting game, that was all kinds of twisted. I think it never got released. Thrill Kill. I think you could only get it on a sort of pirate, But a friend of mine back in the day had it, and we played it, and it was at the time it was kind of cool, but it was very twisted though in terms of its violence and sort of very twisted violence and kind of various sort of horror tropes, given as full and as graphic a day out as the PS1 was able to muster. And this is the thing with that kind of stuff, this is why I think Grand Theft Auto and games like that have got out of hand now, in that, back when it was on PlayStation 1 or something, the first couple of games, the graphics are so bad, they're so basic, and not real looking, that the uber violence of the game and the uber violent possibilities and potentials of the game, kind of seem cartoonish, and not disturbing at all, and I mean, and even going into the game and acting completely despicably, and just literally going in and mowing people down with cars, or beating them up, or shooting them, or whatever it is you wanted to do, whatever it is you were required to do, let's say, also in the game, it sort of seemed less threatening and less disturbing than it does now. As soon as you smash that barrier, as soon as you kind of get the graphics to be rather realistic, much more realistic, and then you're still doing the same kind of violence and sort of senseless violence. I mean, Grand Theft Auto, GTA has always been kind of that sort of thing where, yeah, you can do the game missions, and you can do the various things that you're supposed to be doing, but it's also just a great big sandbox, and so you can just run around and do what you want if that's what takes your fancy, and drive around if you want, or run around, and if you're feeling murderous, you can be completely ruthlessly murderous. And but of course, as you create better and better graphics for the games like that, I think it changes the results. I think it kind of has an effect on how disturbing the game might be to play, and what sort of age restrictions or stuff you might want to place on it. I mean, I know, I've got sort of friends in pretty much all the different camps. Some people are, very, very kind of tight on this stuff and won't let their children be involved with any kind of gaming or any kind of violent imagery or violent gaming. And others are the complete opposite, in that there's almost no restriction at all. And I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. I guess we're all a blend. I think that if Grand Theft Auto still looked like it did in the first game, I probably still wouldn't want Hector to play it. Just because the tone is not good, not conducive for 9-year-old boys. But with it absolutely not looking like that anymore, it's a definite no-no for me. I can't. I mean, I feel somewhat a bit hypocritical because I had a very early exposure to horror film and horror images and stuff like that. We didn't have games when I was Hector's age, but well, there was Atari. The Atari stuff was out, but the big Atari centres. But we didn't have one of those. So any kind of computer gaming basically first came into my house when in sort of 1983, I think it was 1983 that I got a computer. I got a Spectrum, a 48K Spectrum, Sinclair, and that was the first time then that sort of video gaming came into my life. And a lot of our lives, it was mental. This idea of having games to play on your TV was crazy. But Spectrum games were pretty basic, and there really wasn't anything to worry about particularly. And I was 12 in 1983, so I wasn't Hector's age anyway. I was 3 years older than him. But anyway, I decided to let him play Destiny, as it is pretty tame, as even though it has an age rating on it. I think it's either a 12 or a 16. 16. But the violence is obviously very fantasy violence. It's always kind of it's always kind of aliens and you know, bugs and kind of bug people, and you know, there's no you know, there's not really any sort of human on human violence, you know, and like I said, there's no blood. Well, it's starting to look pretty good, I think. The only, and again, a little unforeseen side effect of building this whole thing here where it snows is, you know, you obviously get these periodical snowstorms and stuff, and you'll get some coverage, and then you you know, you build something new, which like this, so all this stuff hasn't got any snow on, obviously, and you know, yeah, what was I even talking about? Now I tell you what, it's late, it's been a long day. We went to the beach today with the kiddies, and it's been a very long, hot day, and I'm a little bit burnt, and I am starting to get a bit tired, so I'm kind of wondering whether if I'm talking complete and utter gobbledygook, total wazzocks, I guess I'll find out when I listen back to this. But I feel like I am. I feel like I've slightly gone into that area where I'm autopiloting some of this stuff, and I am actually asleep. Although I'm not asleep right now, but I think I have been asleep while we've been on air, just momentarily. It's weird. That happened to me. I used to do these. I used to call them. What did I call them? Monoblogs. Monoblogs. Basically, I used to use the voice memo app on my phone, which would have been an iPhone 3G probably, you know, when I first started doing it. I used to use the iPhone voice memo app to record myself talking about something. So I would talk, and I would do this in the car on my long commute to London, and because I was driving in really early in the morning, I would, you know, I'd sometimes have to talk to stay awake, and so I kind of had this idea of, well, why don't I try and make some content, you know, talk about things and record it on the voice memo app and see what it sounds like. And I kind of came out of it thinking, well, actually it doesn't sound too bad, and you could make lemons into lemonade and kind of make a thing about it. So I was kind of picturing a podcast that I was going to do, which I may still do something like that through the Film Utopia group, the Arcadia group, I should say, at some point perhaps. I ended up sort of years later calling it the Journeyman podcast, which was a joke because the tagline was "Where the journey is always the same." Because I always did these monoblogs, these recordings of myself talking in the car on my commute to work, which was always the same journey, you know, pretty much. And so I would record myself talking to myself. And I remember once I was obviously pretty tired, and I was talking about Batman. I think the subject du jour was Batman, or Batman movies, and I was talking about Batman, and then I had one of those moments of clarity where I was suddenly aware that I think I was talking some rubbish, you know, some utter something had gone off the rails and gone awry, and that I'd been asleep basically at the wheel. This was at the wheel as well. Crazy dangerous, and not asleep like asleep, but just kind of. When I listened back to the recording, I found that because I confused myself, I remember saying something and then obviously it processing in my head what I'd said, and then I was able to question it and say, what did I just say? And because there was no train up there, yeah. Now, did you see what I just said there? I just said there's no train up there. What does that mean? What does that mean? That's weird. That's a good example of what I'm talking about. This is what happened with the Batman thing, and I was talking about Batman, and then I was aware that I said something that was completely unrelated to Batman and didn't really. It was definitely not. It had gone off on a tangent, and then I was aware that I was aware of it, and yeah, and I think that's what just happened just then, about talking about a train. Anyway, so that side is pretty good now. It's looking pretty fine. That is a large pyramid. Oh my god, we're going to get rid of that thing. It's going to put a load more snow on my flipping floor. Yep, it is. Not if you break the snow first, Ben. Yeah, I can't be asked to do that. Well. I've somehow managed to stream for nearly an hour doing this, and that's bizarre because I have my subjective viewpoint, so to speak, does not feel like an hour at all. Weird. Right, where did we get to with this stuff over here? I don't know. So, as you can see, there's a long way to bloody go. In fact, before I came on air, I had moved this wall back, because probably last time I was streaming there was a sandstone wall here, and it was probably somewhere about here. I just thought it's too near the base of the pyramid. You need a bit more breathing room, and I'm wondering whether to actually give it even more and just kind of, give it a bit more space. Because it's the only downside is the fact that because it's kind of buried in in this sort of great vast square crater that I'm creating. You're not going to be able to see it on the approach in all its glory. You'll have that, and you'll only be able to see how big it is once you get to here. And then you can't even have it all in frame. It is looking pretty impressive. I have to say the snow kind of helps in a weird way, give it some texture and size. What's going on with my thing there? Why is that? Oh no, it's not broken, it just wasn't rendering in for some reason. So we've got kind of the pyramid starting to look pretty nice. There's still huge gaps here. Actually, that one's not too bad. I think I can close that up. Let's close that up. Yeah, so I'm gonna actually listen back to this live stream, because I have this feeling that I've slipped asleep while doing this, while zoning out on this, and have probably said something totally ridiculous or unrelated and stupid. So I'll have to check it out, and if I have, I might just have to edit that out. Oh, flies, go away. It's been a very buggy day today. We're at the beach, and there was a lot of bugs there. Lots of, sort of little weevily things and flies and whatnot, and little sand fleas and kind of just stuff. And they all seem to want to party on my white shirt that I was wearing today. But that's okay. The beach where we went today is actually an estuary, so it's kind of, it's semi-sandy but partially muddy as well. It's kind of not really fully sandy like a coastal beach is. And so the kids were absolutely getting covered in this dark, bluey black sand, mud, that was kind of part of the deal with the going paddling and looking for crabs and whatnot. And they looked a right state. Well, we have broached the hour, so I think I might have to give it a roll. Shall I finish? Yeah, I think I'll finish this thing. So yeah, we're kind of changing the subject back to the signatures. We had a rehearsal last week, the first one in months and months and months and months, since before lockdown, obviously. And at the time that we had the rehearsal, certainly at the time that we booked the rehearsal and arranged it, the idea was that we would it would be in preparation for a couple of things, but obviously our live comeback, so to speak, our live, post COVID comeback, which was a little bit obviously premature, at the Eastbourne Bandstand in Eastbourne, strangely enough. And if you've ever been to the Bandstand at Eastbourne, it's a really amazingly terrific venue as well. It's basically my favourite place. I've played there 3 times now, I think. And obviously it's an open air venue on the beachfront at Eastbourne, and you've got the bandstand itself, which is large. It's big enough, plenty big enough to put a very large band in. Weirdly, nice stage, and and it holds maybe, I don't know, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 people, something like that, max capacity. And obviously the audience is split into 3 sections. There are 3 tiers. There's the sort of ground floor section in front of the bandstand, and then there was a sort of mid-tier, and then an upper tier, yeah. So we've done, the gigs there have been the highlights of our year, in some ways, certainly in terms of the that sort of high summer, beautiful venue, great stage, tons of people, large numbers of people. Obviously we still do gigs sometimes, for sort of, two or 300 people. Some gigs, you know. And then we're also doing stuff. You know, we have also been doing stuff that's more like 4,500 people. But the stuff that we've done at Skeggy and stuff like that. So it's quite varied, you know. And so this was obviously a real blow. Because they had to cancel for Eastbourne. Basically, they put all their safety measures in place that they were obliged to do, and they obviously had I guess they'd done they must have done their sums in terms of ticket prices and how many tickets they could safely sell, how many people they could safely have passing through the various gates. And they were probably, I think there's, I figured they probably would have set up a sort of one way in, one way out thing, because there are two exits. Anyway, I'm sure they kind of set it up, and it was going ahead. We were surprised that it was going ahead because everything else that's come, been shot out of the sky. But they were going ahead, ever since the whole open up, build, Boris, doing his thing. So it was going ahead, but I think, in between updates, COVID updates, it became apparent that in order to follow those guidelines, they just couldn't do it, and I think they figured that rather than run the risk of losing money in some way, and only obviously having such a reduced capacity and no dancing and all the rest of it, I think in the end they just decided that they just couldn't do it safely, and it wasn't worth perhaps it wasn't economically worth the trouble with such a tight margin, if they're only allowed to have sort of 400 or 500 people there, in a venue that holds 1,200, or less than that. I don't know. Anyway, it's a shame. So they had to cancel, and that was a bummer. But we went into the studio, and we've got a couple of nice things in the wings. Waiting to kind of show everyone, and which are good. It's good that there's some forward momentum somewhere in the sort of the ether, so to speak. Right. Well, it's been weird. I can't believe it's been an hour and 8 minutes. I'm definitely going to go and check this audio and see what complete brain salad has been coming out my mouth over this last hour. So, good night. I bid you farewell, and good night, and all that. And if you happen to like, I'll do a Hector now. If you do happen to come across this video and watch it and sort of appreciate what I'm trying to do with this pyramid, then consider liking the video. Consider following and doing all that stuff, all that good stuff. Yeah, I mean, my channel is not huge. It's not really, and it's a little bit lacking focus in terms of seem to be doing nothing but gaming, streaming now, and Hector's been doing his streams, obviously coming onto my account as well. But goodbye, pyramid. So there's probably a little bit of a focus issue with my channel in terms of some of it's guitar and some of it's this and some of it's, you know, whatever. Here we are. So I'm gonna go up my little tower. And there we are. Right. Okay. So we'll leave it where we started off, which was about here. And I will see you on the other side.